Alright, what's good, y'all? Welcome back. This is the second part of the Ancient World Mysteries Iceberg. If you haven't watched the first part, make sure you do that. I'll try to link it below if I remember, to be honest. But this is gonna be the start of tier 4. This is gonna I'm gonna break it up into 2 different parts. So this is gonna be the first part, and then the second part gonna come out a few more days. So other than that, man, we're gonna get right into it. But make sure y'all subscribing and make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, cause that's it. You feel me? We're trying to run this up, bro. 200 subscribers, like that shit is blowing my mind, bro. So I appreciate it, and yeah, we're getting right into it. Let's go. Alright, so up first is Dara's footprints. So the Dara temple is the Iron Age Syro-Hittil temple, noted for its similarities to Solomon's temple, and it's also known as the first temple in the Hebrews Bible. It is located in Africa, technically Syria. It's located in a village called Dara, hence the name. And basically, the excavator for this place, his name was Ali Abu Asaf, and he said that this place existed from 1300 BC until around 740 BC, and it remained basically unchanged that whole entire time during Solomon's temple's building and everything. So this thing actually predates Solomon's temple. The main mystery about this thing is inside, like the actual place, inside the actual temple itself, there are these like 2 big footprints. There's actually about 4, but there's a pair, and they're each about 1 meter long, which is about 3 feet long, followed by another single footprint that was carved into like the floor beyond the first 2, and then another one marking the threshold that the deities like basically had gotten into the temple. And basically a lot of people that see this stuff basically conject that it was an unidentified creature with immense clawed features to be able to actually like etch its like feet into the thing. And the inference, like the main consensus about this thing, is that the right footprint seen on the threshold, which is spaced about 10 meters or 30 feet from the first footprint, could be from a human or a god or whatever the fuck you want to call it. This thing would be about 20 meters tall, or that's about 60 feet, bro. Like that's fucking huge. So it's super debated on what this actually is. If it's, I mean, obviously it's real, you know what I mean? It's an indentation into the floors and it was excavated. But it's also been noted that the deities in all of the Dara temple reliefs have shoes with toes curled up, which is basically like supposedly the source of the footprints, because that's how they look. Anyways, moving on to the next one. Alright, so up next are Dogū. So Dogū, the word itself literally means earthen figure, and basically these are these small like humanoid and animal figurines that were made during the later part of the Jomon period in Japan. And the Jomon period basically lasted a fucking long time. It was from 14,000 to 400 BC, so big stretch of time. But these Dogūs were specifically made during this time, and by like the next period, which is the Yaoi period, it was already basically phased out. They were no longer being made. So all these things that were being found are from this time period. Around now, there are approximately like somewhere between 15,000 and 18,000 that have been found of these actual Dogūs, and the purpose of them remains unknown. So nobody knows what these were actually made for, and they're not to be mixed up with the Hawana funerary objects, which are like basically like these little like figures that they also make, but they're for like funerals and like, you know what I mean, ceremonial type of things. Not to get confused with that. So people really don't know what these are actually supposed to be. They're made out of clay and are small, typically 10 to 30 centimeters high. Most of the figurines appear to be modeled as female and have big eyes, small waist, and wide hips. They're considered by many to be representative of goddesses, and many have large abdomens, which can be associated with like pregnancy and everything. According to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, these figurines suggest an association with fertility and shamanistic rituals. Due to in part to the enigmatic nature of the figurines, there have been numerous theories regarding the ornate appearance, with some speculating that the physical appearance is connected with the suits and equipment of modern day astronauts. Basically, because if you look at some of these things, they have these little goggles on, and I guess like people are associating that with astronaut kind of like space suits because they look like a little weird. But there's actually like these Himalayan group of people that also say that those things have the same exact kind of glasses that they use for when they would go like through the snow and everything to not get snow blindness. It's like these really little slit glasses, and they basically say that some of these little figurines have the same exact thing on them. So pretty crazy. But anyways, there's a bunch of discrepancies in the varieties of the Dogū itself, with only a portion of these things actually having these like little goggle like things. Most are just like basically brought up by ancient alien kind of people. And anyways, the main thing is no one really knows what these things are still made for, so we're moving on to the next one. Alright, so up next is the Nebra Sky Disc. So the Nebra Sky Disc is this bronze disc that's about 30 centimeters in diameter and about 5 pounds in weight. It has this bluish green patina to it, and it's inlaid with these gold symbols. Now, the symbols on this disc are generally interpreted to be the sun or a full moon, a lunar crescent, stars, and Pleiades, like these 7 stars. Remember this, because these like 7 stars, Pleiades, stretches across a ton of different civilizations, and it's gonna pop up probably more than these 2 times, to be honest. So just remember this for next time. Anyways, let me get back to what I was saying. It has 2 golden arcs along the sides, interpreted to be the mark of the angle between the solstices that were added later, not like originally when it was first created, I guess. And a final addition was another arc at the bottom with internal parallel lines. The disc has been attributed to a site in present-day Germany near Nebra, and was originally dated by archaeologists to be around 1600 BC, based on the provenance provided by the looters who found it. Researchers initially suggested that the disc was an artifact of the Bronze Age Unistis culture, although a later dating found it to be during the Iron Age had also been proposed. If the Bronze Age dating is correct, the Nebra Sky Disc features the oldest concrete depictions of the cosmos yet known from anywhere else in the world. So basically, this is the oldest thing that shows the universe and the stars. And anyways, so if this is actually from the Bronze Age, this is the oldest thing that depicts that ever found, ever. So anyways, and in June 2013, it was included in the UNESCO Memory of the World Register and termed one of the most important archaeological finds of the 20th century. If, however, the Iron Age dating is sustained, that title could go to the star clock in a graves wall painting found in Thebes, Egypt, which is dated around 1463 BC. So all depends on if this thing was actually made originally in the Bronze Age or the Iron Age, if it is the oldest known so far, basically. Anyways, moving on to the next one. Alright, so up next is Silphium. So Silphium is basically this unidentified plant that was used in classical antiquity as a seasoning, a perfume, an aphrodisiac, and as medicine. It was also used by the ancient Greeks and Romans as a contraceptive. And basically, this thing was this really essential trade item from the ancient North African city of Cyrene, and it was so critical to this city's basically economy that most of their coins had a picture of this plant on it. Now, the valuable product from this plant was actually the resin that came out of it. It was super important in classical antiquity, as evidenced by Egyptians and Knossos Minoans developing a specific glyph to represent the Silphium plant. It was used widely by most ancient Mediterranean cultures. The Romans, who mentioned the plant in poems and songs, considered it worth its weight in silver coins, basically, or denarii. Anyways, or even gold. So this thing was super expensive, and the resin was definitely worth it to people. Legend said that it was a gift from the god Apollo. Exact identity of Silphium is unclear. It is commonly believed to be a now extinct form of the genus Furla, and perhaps a variety of a giant fennel. The extinct plants Margogia gumifera, all these plants basically have been suggested as Silphium, what it was, but no one can really tell for sure. That was a long-winded way of saying that, basically. My bad. Anyways, another plant, Asafoetida, was used as a cheaper substitute for Silphium, and had similar enough qualities that Romans, including the geographer Strabo, used the same word to describe both. Many medicinal uses were ascribed to the plant. It was said that it could be used to treat a cough, a sore throat, fever, indigestion, aches and pains, warts, and all kinds of maladies. Anyways, I'm sick of fucking words up for that one, so we're moving on to the next one. My bad. Alright, so up next are the stone spheres in Costa Rica. So the stone spheres of Costa Rica are an assortment of over 300 petrospheres in Costa Rica on the Diques Delta in the Isla de Cano. Locally, they are known as bolas de pedra, or literally just stone balls. So there you go. The spheres are commonly attributed to the extinct Dagger culture, and they're sometimes referred to as the Dagger spheres. And basically, these are the best known sphere sculptures in the Istmo-Colombian area. They are thought to have been placed in lines along the approach of the houses of the chiefs, but their exact significance remains unknown. So basically, nobody really knows what these things are for. You can picture almost like a garden, like leading up. You know how gardens, they have like those rows of the rocks and everything, or you have a stone path. You can picture that leading up to like the chief's houses and everything like that. That is what people are assuming these are for, but yet again, nobody really knows. Anyways, the Palmar Sur archaeological excavations are a series of excavations of a site located in the southern portion of the country known as the Diques Delta, and have centered on a site known as Finca 6 or Farm 6. The archaeological findings date back to the Aguas Buenas period, or around 300 to 800 CE, and Chirique period, which is around 800 to 1500. So anywhere from 300 to 1500 CE is basically what they've been finding in this archaeological dig and on Farm 6. Anyways, in June 2014, the pre-Columbian chieftain settlements with the stone spheres of the Diques was added to the UNESCO list of World Heritage Sites. In July 2014, a project which has been proposed back in 2011 to declare the spheres a national symbol of the country was finally approved. So now these things are actually a symbol of Costa Rica, a national symbol. Numerous myths actually surround these stones themselves, which is probably why it's on these mysteries, such as a bunch of people from around the area think that they came from Atlantis, or that they were somehow made like by something like along those same lines. Basically, some local legends state that the native inhabitants had access to a potion able to soften the rocks and like be able to mend them however they want. However, most of the spheres were created from gabbro, or an acidic resistant igneous rock, and the cosmology of the Bribri, which is shared by the Capabares and other American ancestral groups. The stone spheres are Tara's cannonballs, or Tara and the Tuds Traucle, who is the god of thunder. Basically used to use this giant blowpipe to shoot balls at Xerxes, who was the god of winds and hurricane. So you can imagine some god basically spitting spitballs, but they're these giant fucking rocks. That's what they're going for. Anyways, moving on to the next one. Alright, so up next is Tutankhamun's Iron Dagger. By the way, this whole thing, I'm gonna just call him King Tut because I'm gonna mess up his name at some point. King Tut's dagger is an iron-bladed dagger from the tomb of the ancient Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun, who reigned from 1334 to 1325 BC. As the blade composition and homogeneity closely correlate with the meteorite composition and homogeneity, the material for the blade is determined to have originated by way of meteoric landing. The dagger is currently displayed at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, and basically since the 1960s, the high nickel content in the blade has been accepted as an indication that this thing came from a meteorite. A more recent study published in June 2016, basically from like an X-ray fluorescent spectrometer analysis, shows that the blade's composition is mostly iron and 11% nickel and 0.6% cobalt. At the timing of King Tut's mummification in approximately 1323 BC, which was around the Bronze Age, iron smelting and manufacture was rare, and iron objects were only used for artistic, ornamental, ritual, gift-giving, and ceremonial purposes, as well as pigmentation. Hence, iron during this age was more valuable or precious than gold. So basically, the iron in this thing, they were not putting this much iron in this blade back then. Besides the fact that he was actually a king. So it makes a lot of sense. Basically, people are saying that this iron dagger is not, it's more an iron dagger. It's not actually a meteorite, which a lot of people had assumed for mad long, basically, you know what I mean, since the 60s. So now we know that this actually makes sense because iron artifacts were given to like royalty back then during the Bronze Age and everything. So yeah, it makes sense, you know what I mean. Kid died when he was mad young. Anyways, moving on to the next thing. All right, so up next, what were the Vimanas? So Vimana are mythological flying palaces or chariots described in Hindu texts or Sanskrit epics. And basically the Sanskrit word Vimana literally means measuring out or traversing, and or having been measured out. Monier Williams defines Vimana as a car or chariot of the gods, any self-moving aerial car, sometimes serving as a seat or throne, sometimes self-moving and carrying its occupant through the air. Other descriptions make the Vimana more like a house or a palace, basically, so it's kind of either or. It's basically a flying crib or a chariot that carries the gods. Best way to describe it, to be honest. Short, sweet, and simple. Anyway, it's found mostly, like I said, in Hindu texts or Sanskrit epics, and basically, yeah, that's really all. That's what nobody knows what the Vimanas actually were. Probably some ancient alien type shits, or that's what I would assume, honestly. They probably saw like a UFO back then or something, right? You know, what else do you think of fucking flying palaces, dog? Like, we didn't have planes back then, so who knows, man. But anyways, short and sweet, we're moving on to the next one. Okay, so up next is the Baghdad Battery. So the Baghdad Battery is a name to a set of 3 artifacts which were found together: a ceramic pot, a tube of copper, and a rod of iron. Alright, it was discovered in present-day Kajut Rabu, which is in Iraq. It was found close to Ctesiphon, which is the capital of the Parthian, and basically it is believed to have dated from somewhere around 150 BC to 650 AD. Somewhere around this time is believed when this thing was made. All right. Anyways, its origin and purpose remain unclear. It was hypothesized by Wilhelm Koenig, the director of the National Museum of Iraq, that the object functioned as a galvanic cell, possibly used for electroplating or some kind of electrotherapy, which is crazy when you just think of the years I just said, because 150 BC to 650 AD is where this thing is timed to have come from. And they're doing electrotherapy back then. Fucked up. Anyways, but there is no electroplated object known from this period, and the claims are near universally rejected by archaeologists. An alternative explanation is that it functioned as a storage vessel for sacred scrolls, since the artifacts consist of terracotta pot approximately 6 inches tall with a 38 millimeter, which is about like a 1.5 inch mouth, containing a cylinder made out of a rolled copper sheet which houses a single iron rod. At the top, the iron rod is isolated from the copper by bitmuin with plugs or stoppers, and both rod and cylinder fit snugly inside the opening of the jar. The copper cylinder is not watertight, so if the jar is filled with liquid, this would surround the iron as it would surround the iron too. Basically, it would pour and basically would surround both. Anyways, the artifact had been exposed to a bunch of weather and had suffered a ton of corrosion when it was found. And the artifacts are similar to other objects believed to be storage vessels for sacred scrolls from nearby Seleucia in the Tigris. Since these vessels were exposed to the elements, it is possible that any papyrus or parchment inside completely rotted away, so they don't know if there were actual scrolls in this thing, since none were found. They just found the iron rod and everything like that. And yeah, basically there was no acidic residue. Basically there's no acidic organic residue in there, so they have no clue. Basically, it looks like it could be used for, like, you know what I mean, some type of battery, but it's basically universally rejected. Nobody actually believes that shit. And yeah, I'm moving on to the next one. So finishing up this half is the Olmec colossal heads. Anyways, the Olmec colossal heads are stone representations of human heads sculpted from large basalt boulders. They range in height from 1.17 to 3.4 meters, which is about 3.8 feet to around 11 feet tall. The heads date from at least 900 BC and are distinctive features of the Olmec civilization of ancient Mesoamerica. All of them portray mature individuals with fleshy cheeks, flat noses, and slightly crossed eyes. Their physical characteristics correspond to a type that is still common among the inhabitants of Tabasco and Veracruz. The backs of the monuments are often flat, and the boulders were brought from the Sierra de los Tuxtlas Mountains of Veracruz. Basically, these things were dragged a fucking long long way to get to where they were at and be there. All right, they were actually over 150 kilometers they were dragged. All right, which is around 93 miles, which would require a great deal of fucking effort if you don't realize that. These things are huge, bro. These giant monuments are thought to represent portraits of powerful individual Olmec leaders. Each of the known examples has a distinctive headdress on it, which makes people think that it was like a leader or like a chief position. It was who they're carving out. And the heads were variously arranged in lines or groups at major Olmec centers, but the method and logistics used to transport the stones to the site still are unclear. So they have no clue how they got these things here. Like I said, they dragged these things for 93 miles over here, so I don't know how they did it. I'm hoping not on their backs, bro. That shit would be crazy. They all displayed distinctive headgear, and one theory is that these were worn as protective helmets, maybe worn for war or to take part in a ceremonial Mesoamerican ball game, which, if you watch I think that was the Lost Locations thing, I talked about El Dorado. If you watch the El Dorado movie from, I think it's Disney or Paramount, they played this game that the Mesoamericans used to play.
This is impossible.
That's the game that these people are thinking that this is a protective headwear for. Anyways, most of the colossal heads were sculpted from spherical boulders, but 2 from San Lorenzo were recarved from massive stone thrones. An additional monument at Tacalic Abaj in Guatemala is a throne that may have been carved from a colossal head. So basically, these things are all spread out all over the place. And yeah, that's really all I have for this one. Basically, the smallest one of these things weighs 6 tons, and the largest weigh around 40 to 50 tons. And basically, like I said, the whole mystery is that nobody knows how they actually got these things to these locations. Over 93 miles, they are not dragging these things on their back. I hope not. But anyways, man, my bad. I've been fucking up this whole one. I stayed up all night. I clearly shouldn't have done that. But yeah, man, next time, trust me, I'm gonna make sure I get this pronunciation on point, bro. I've been working on it. I feel like I've been getting a little better, but some of these names, bro, be fucking me up. Anyways, if you watch this whole thing, I appreciate you for real. Make sure you subscribe and shit, bro. Trust me, I'm trying to get 500, I'm trying to get 1,000, all this bullshit. We better run it up. And yeah, make sure you're getting laid and staying dangerous, cuz that's it. You feel me? It's a crazy world out there, cuz make sure you stay strapped. And that's it. This is